Okay, so some important notes on energy systems. Multiple energy systems are always going to be activated at one time. An all-out sprint isn't only going to use your ATP PCR system. This is just going to be the predominant one. You might be getting 95% of your energy from here, and in the background, anaerobic metabolism or the glycolytic system right here will be running in the background. Okay. When you're exercising somewhere between at a minute and a half and you're predominantly using anaerobic metabolism, glycolytic system, you are not only using anaerobic metabolism, you are just predominantly using anaerobic metabolism. Okay, so keep that in your mind. We will talk about these a little bit individually, but always know that there is more than one running at the same time. I like to think of your energy systems on a type of ladder that we have ATP PC system at the top of the ladder. In the middle is the anaerobic metabolism, or what your textbook refers to as the glycolytic system. And then we have oxidative phosphorylation at the bottom. Okay. As we increase our intensity of exercise, we will move up the ladder. As we increase our duration of exercise, we naturally have to move down the ladder. You cannot maintain an all-out sprint, which it would be using your ATP PC system at the same intensity as running a mile, right? If I told you to go out and run a 60-yard sprint as fast as you can, that same time would not translate if I asked you to do a mile, right? As duration of exercise increases, we will naturally move down the ladder. As our intensity increases, we will naturally move up the ladder. Okay. During rest, you're hanging out in oxidative phosphorylation, hanging out nice and low on the ladder. As your intensity or need for energy increases, you will naturally move up the ladder. Okay, right up here. So right now, if you're sitting in your dorm room, chilling, listening to this video, you're hanging out in oxidative phosphorylation. If all of a sudden the fire alarm goes off and you have to run down 4 flights of stairs and get out into the common area outside, you have moved away from oxidative phosphorylation up to anaerobic metabolism. And potentially, if you are all out sprinting, trying to get out of that dorm room, you potentially have moved up the ladder to ATP PC system because our intensity has increased. Our need for energy, our body's need for more energy, quick, fast, I need it now, has increased. So we have moved up the energy system ladder. Our energy system pathways, we just touched on those a little bit. Your ATP PC system, this is generally going to last between 3 to 15 seconds. The first couple of seconds of energy come from naturally stored ATP in our body. So roughly anything under 15 seconds is going to be our ATP PC system. 1 ATP is going to be produced, which is not much. This is a fully anaerobic system. So anaerobic, there's that AN again, meaning no oxygen is present. And this is going to be all out intensity. Okay, next we have our glycolytic system, or what I sometimes refer to as anaerobic metabolism. That is, again, anaerobic, so no oxygen present. It's going to yield between 2 and 3 ATP, depending on if we use glucose or glycogen. And we're not going to get into the too nitty-gritty of that, but between 2 and 3 ATP are going to be produced. The duration of this is going to last anywhere between 15 seconds and 2 minutes. And it's going to be the breakdown of glucose via glycolysis. Okay. Um, our oxidative energy system really has two different pathways, from carbs and from fats. Carbs are going to give us between 32 and 33 ATP produced. This is going to happen in the mitochondria. Think mitochondria, powerhouse of the cell. And it's going to be roughly 90 minutes of exercise is going to be coming from our oxidative system when we use carbs. From fat, we need acetyl-CoA as the key. Uh, think of acetyl-CoA really is the special knock to get into the special frat house, trying to get into the mitochondria, trying to take our fatty acid molecule into the mitochondria to start the Krebs cycle. Okay. More than 100 ATP are produced, and we can last days and days of time with energy from fat. Okay, so remember, we are moving up and down that ladder, up and down that energy system, moving our energy systems up and down that ladder depending on intensity and duration. The crossover concept is discussed in your textbook on figure 2.1, 2.16. If we think about it, what we just discussed about how we're moving up and down the energy system ladder, this tells us what we are using as our primary fuel source, whether it's carbs or fat. Okay, so the blue line is going to be fat sources, and the red line is going to be carbohydrate sources. Okay, and this is going to be our percentage of maximal oxygen uptake. So you could think of that as basically intensity. Okay, so when we are at rest, we are primarily using, that blue line is going to be at 100%. Okay, we're primarily using fat as our fuel source. Okay, as we increase our intensity, or we move to the right, we see that naturally our fat continues to go down. Our utilization of fat will go down, and that red line picks up, or our utilization of carbohydrates will pick up. So when we are exercising at about 20% of our maximum oxygen uptake, you could also think of this as percentage of heart rate max. Okay, about 20% intensity. Even at 20% intensity, we're using about maybe 20-ish% of our energy is coming from carbs, and about 80% is coming from fat. At 40% of maximum, we're going to use maybe about 30% from carbs, 70% from fat. Somewhere between 60 and 80% of intensity level or maximum oxygen uptake is where that crossover concept is going to happen. The crossover concept is basically where our body stops using fat as our main energy source and starts using more carbohydrates. It's the intersection of where that is happening. So it's somewhere between 60 and 80% of our exercise intensity, of our maximum exercise intensity, of our VO2 max, of our percentage of heart rate, our maximum heart rate. Okay, at 100%, so we are all out. This is our VO2 max. We are at our maximum heart rate. We are using 0% from fat and almost 100% from carbohydrates. So if we need to be performing exercise that is all out maximum, think sprinters in track, think really any sport is always going to have a kind of a maximum peak, right? Even in baseball, you're sprinting, even though baseball and softball can be, 2 or 3 hour long games, you are still sprinting to first base, right? In hockey, same thing. Hockey is very anaerobic based because you are out skating for 30 seconds and then maybe you're subbing out. Maybe you're lasting 2 minutes in the ring and then you're constantly subbing out. It's very anaerobic. So a lot of our energy is coming from carbohydrates for exercise. So again, another reason why those myths and those ideas of exercise, of diets that do not include carbohydrates, bad idea, right? Right here. So a couple key points to remember. Obviously, you need to read your textbook and get into the nitty gritty, okay? But some just key points. The food stuff that we eat, so the carbs, the proteins, and the fats, needs to get broken down in order to create ATP. That is the basis of bioenergetics, okay? Our carbs get broken down into glucose and stored as glycogen. Our fats get broken down into fatty acids or free fatty acids, however you want to refer to that. And our protein gets broken down into amino acids and eventually will need to be converted back to glucose in order to create energy. Okay. ATP is our king and our queen. Our ATP is the master. We need it for our body to do any type of energy, to do any type of work. Okay. And our energy systems are not all one at a time. We're going to think about the ladder that I showed you and know that multiple energy systems are always working. You always have at least two that are working at the same time. However, one is just more dominant than the other. As we increase intensity, we're going to move up that ladder, up towards that ATP PC system. As we increase the duration of exercise, we are moving down the ladder and getting closer to that oxidative phosphorylation. Okay, so that's a wrap on bioenergetics. I will see you all soon.